Here we are at Augusta. We're going to head back to Marthasville. And on this ride there are some very beautiful cliffs on the right. Coming up real soon. There are some stinky hog farms where you can almost feel the air as you go through it because it's so stinky. It is, what is it, September 15th, something like that, Tina? And it is a nice, warm, what was it, about 80 when we got out of the car? We don't normally do rides where we talk. Well, we do talk, but then I take it out of the ride and put in music and just trail sounds. So we've had some friends that have said that we should record some videos where we're talking about what's going on around us, and we should tell some of our stories. We have some friends that like our stories, and we've had so many really weird things happen to us and stories that we thought we would tell you some. I thought I'd start off with, we name our stories. I thought I would start off with a story that we called the bacon wrapped mouth story. So our son, I'm Rob Wyman, and this is Tina Wyman that you hear talking, and we have Bluetooth helmets so we can talk to each other while we're riding, and they make it really nice to ride. So if you hear us talking and chiming in, the Tina's right behind me, but the helmets work. I had about a quarter mile. I'll get back to the bacon wrap mouth story in a minute, but I just wanted to explain how we're talking to each other. Some pretty cliffs here. The range is about at least a quarter of a mile, and you can hear each other clear as a bell. And they're made by Senna, and our models are R2, and they'll let you talk to up to 4 other helmets. I think they have some fancier, newer ones, but these are really pretty good. And you charge them up, they've got a lithium battery in them, and they work for several bike rides where you have to charge them back up. Now I guess that would mean it would be how far you ride a bike. We don't usually go more than I'd say 40 miles is a real long ride for us, wouldn't you say, Tina? So before I get to the story, I might as well explain who we are. I'm 67, and I'm a disabled veteran from the Army. And if you're in another branch, sorry, but I'm Army. The issue we have, we ride e-bikes because I've got 2 torn meniscus in my left knee that the VA will not fix right now. They said that one of the tears is age-related, so it won't repair right. I'm probably pretty far down the path toward getting a knee replacement. But we're trying to stave that off. I've had 2 heart attacks and a quadruple bypass, all service related, as are the knee issues. I've got bad left knee, bad right knee, and I've got some issues with my left foot and my right foot. I was born with extra ankles, not really ankles, extra bones in each foot, so it looks like I have 2 pairs of ankles. That's not that uncommon, but what's uncommon is my tibial tendon would get wrapped up around those extra bones. Hurts like blue blazes. So they took 3 bones out of my left foot, shortened my tibial tendon. I know if I keep talking about this, I'm going to put you all to sleep, so I'm going to stop. Suffice it to say, there's a pretty good reason why we ride e-bikes. So how long the helmets will last, how long will the batteries on the bikes last, are largely determined by our butts and my knee. My knee, even with pedal assist, swells up and can get pretty stiff. So about 40 miles is all the knee can take, even with pedal assist. if I was riding a regular bike, 16 miles was all I could do on my trek, and that was on the very best of days. So anyway, we have a daughter and a son, and our son is the same name as me for the most part. I'm Robert S. Wyman, he's Robert M. Wyman, and that's my fault. Oh, that leads into another story. I'll get to the bacon wrap now, I promise. But Tina had to have a C-section, and we had originally agreed that our son's name was going to be Michael D'Artagnan. While that truck goes by, Tina was on morphine, and I talked her into changing the name. It's definitely my fault. It's really easy to argue with somebody that's on morphine, and she was high as a kite, I have to admit. Maybe higher than a kite, and that's another story, but I'll come back to that one. And so I talked her into Robert M. Wyman. Wasn't smart enough to make him Robert S. Wyman Jr., which would have been easy, because everybody calls him Junior, which drives him nuts, because he's not a junior. And he says it's sort of like, was it Indiana Jones? He wasn't a junior either, and he always identified with that. I'm not a junior. So Tina was high enough on the morphine after having our son that I came in, and she said, you know, she's laying there, snore, snore, snore. Then she wakes up and looks over at me and says, "Hey, do you like your steak?" I didn't have a steak, but I said, "Yes, it's delicious." And she smiled a great big happy smile and turned back over and said, "I'm a good cook." And fell back to sleep, snore, snore, snore. A little while later, she rolled over and said, "Hamsters! Hamsters! There's hamsters in the road." Well, we were living in Germany, and they didn't have hamsters, but they had hedgehogs everywhere, like you get armadillos and or raccoons and squirrels here. It was hedgehogs there. And I said, "Oh, okay." She rolled back over. A little while later, she rolls back over and says, "Prince Charles is in big trouble." And I said, "Oh, is he? What did he do wrong this time?" And she said, "He's been golfing on his horse again." And I said, "We're going to have to stop him from doing that, aren't we?" And she said, "Yes, we are." And she rolled back over and fell asleep. So, that's that story. Back to the bacon wrap house. So, okay, so my helmet has a low battery now. So I'm going to turn it off, because it's going to keep saying battery level is low. I'll talk to you in a minute, Tina. Alright, so now we have lost Tina, because I had to turn my battery off. Oh, look at that beautiful farm up there. I didn't see that on the way out. And so our son, we started a Cub Scout pack. We organized organized 5 of our friends into joining us in setting up a Cub Scout pack. And our son was not really old enough to be a tiger cub, so we christened him a sub cub. And he came along and went through Scouts all the way to Eagle, and I was his Cub Master and then his Scout Master later. And so Rob and I and the Scouts, as he was older, this was around 1998-ish, we went what we call cabin camping. And that's just a fancy word for staying in a cabin in the woods at one of our local scout ranches. And in the cabin, we were checking it out. And, you know, there's the bunk beds and the kitchen. And we would cook for the kids. Actually, we'd make the kids cook. And first thing we were doing was checking out the stove after we got settled in. It was a big stove, had griddle on the top. And we were making sure that was all cleaned up. It was. Someone else had done a good job on it. But we heated it up and we're checking it out. And some of the grease from the back of the stove heated up, and they have that little trough back there, and it drained down a little line into a 5-gallon bucket. And all of a sudden we started hearing this noise, and it turns out there was a poor little mouse in the 5-gallon bucket. And so we turned off the stove and we caught it and we let it go. And I couldn't help but think, later on there's going to be like 2 foxes walking past this place, and one is going to look over at the other one as they go by and say, "Hey Bill, did I ever tell you about," and Bill's going to say, "Oh, for the love of God, not again. Steve, not the bacon wrapped mouse story. Oh, but it was so delicious. It was so flavorful. It was chewy. It was just so moist. No, no, not the bacon wrapped mouse." All right. I would ask Tina to tell a story, but my helmet died. So, what do you think for another story, Tina? I did bacon wrapped mouse.
Okay.
We did hedgehogs.
I think that's enough for now.
Enough stories for right now. Okay, I'm just going to be shut up and let you look at the scenery. I'll talk about the scenery or the smell. So, we're coming back from Augusta. Augusta has beautiful wineries on the top of the hill. If you're from out of town and you're going to ride the KATY Trail, one of the things you're absolutely going to want to do is when you get to Augusta, make a plan to go up the hill. Even if you have to lock your bicycle and walk, if you have an e-bike like us, it's no problem. You can just change to a higher throttle setting and pedal your way up. On my trek, there's no way I can ride up that hill, even in the best of shape. It's a pretty steep hill for me. Maybe back in my army days, but certainly not in my old guy days. But that's a wonderful place up there. Several really nice wineries. There's also, within striking distance, at the bottom of the hill, the Good News Brewery is a good little place, and they serve pizzas. I like the Vampire Death Wish, which is a garlic pizza. Tina likes the chicken barbecue pizza. Their beers are fairly decent, and it's a nice place. They've got another location in, where's that other Good News Brewery? There's one in St. Charles, but there's also one at Augusta and, oh, Defiance. Defiance has one too. Those are all good places to eat. At the top of the hill, man, it's just winery after winery, and they're all pretty good. If you're a red wine drinker, the wineries in the area have Cynthiana and Norton grapes, and wines based on them, and I think there's Chambersons. Those are all fairly decent, and I would equate to like a Merlot or a Cabernet. This is the little town, and I do mean little, one house, of Nona. I love this little silo. The new one's nice, but I like the old one. And the house is way cool. I like how it's got this kind of strange, almost like tin on the outside of it. And somebody around here has a big pig farm, because we are getting into the stench zone. When you get on the other side of this, the cliffs pick up nicely. If you come here when the leaves turn, it can be stunning, and they have a red vine that grows up these cliffs called Virginia Creeper. And in the fall, small. It's just a fiery red, like burning bush, if you're familiar with that, or red sumac. This time of year they're out harvesting the corn and the soybeans. That can be fun. I love going down the trail when they're combining, as long as the wind is blowing the other way so that it doesn't get me full of dust. I don't know how long my battery is going to last on this camera, but we'll throw this in as a bonus ride. I like to do 30-minute ride videos for people who do the indoor bikes. I know there's times in the winter where I like to ride, but I have to ride indoors because this trail and other places out here are too mushy. I like the old barn over there and the corn crib with the round top. This green stuff on the right between me and the corn is bulrush. They used to use it to scrub pots. In Boy Scouts we would have people, I'm pointing at it now down there, it looks like tiny bamboo or something. We'd have the Boy Scouts go clip that and use it to scrub the pots. It works real good for that. It's got, I don't know if it's got silica in it or something, but it's like a natural sandpaper for scrubbing pots. A lot of this trail has got bluffs on the side, and if you follow the writings of Lewis and Clark, quite often they would stay underneath those for the night, camp under them. Little like natural protection, not man-made, against the elements. Native Americans used to stay there too, of course. So they mentioned some of them in their writing. There's one on the trail called Tavern Rock, and for some reason you can't go up to that one anymore. I know why. Somebody was underneath it, something fell and killed him. Anytime you go next to a natural cave overhang, you could get clobbered by a rock, because they all have rock that fell. That's what made them. So the other ones are not partitioned off, and if it's not partitioned off, you can kind of stop and look at them. But the trail, the state park, is only just a few feet to the left and the right. You have to be careful because you're on private property when you go. Okay, so look right there. Those soybeans are on private property. That corn is on private property. I think you have between 5 and 10 feet on the side, and now you're trespassing. So you want to be very careful getting off this trail and wandering around, because you might find yourself facing a stiff fine from a landowner that did not invite you onto their property. You stop and look. You're on state property as long as you stay on this trail. Take pictures. But you start getting off the trail, unless you're at another trail, you're on your own. Which brings up a good point. When you get to the end of this trail, if you're going to the east, that's the area that we live close to. We live just across the Missouri River from the trail on the east side. And that's Matcham. That is surrounded by private property. And they never bought up the trailhead. You know, I think I just saw an indigo bunting. They never bought up a trailhead there, so there is no real good way to get off of the trail there. Even when you turn around and you think you're on a public road, there's a little gravel road there. That belongs to the farmer. And they have piled gravel up there, they have put chains up. Still people go across their property, and I would just advise you that if you're going to ride to that end of the trail and you want to get off the trail, you might want to go back to Black Walnut. It's just a short distance, and then get on a road. If you're wanting to go to downtown St. Louis, that'd be the proper way to do it without encroaching on a landowner's property, and to be completely safe. There are people who have left Strava maps, I think they're called, little maps that they've made from their rides that'll show you a pretty decent way to get from that trail at the end to the greenway that goes all the way to downtown St. Louis. It's not real far, and those roads are not terribly busy as long as you stay off of 94. Highway 94 can be busy even up there. On this trail right now, this time of year, there are a lot of walnuts, so you need to kind of watch out for them, because if you hit them with your bike tire, they can send you for a spill. There's also, this time of year, you start seeing, I'm trying to think of the name of them. What are those fruits that taste so bitter if they look good? Not huckleberry, persimmons. So you'll see persimmons. They're an orange fruit, and if you're not from this area, I will tell you that they can be delicious, but don't eat the ones that look good. A persimmon that looks good is really bitter, and you will wish you had never opened your mouth and put that in there. The ones that look like kind of gross are delicious. They have big seeds in them, but they're pretty good. I would encourage you to try some. And you'll get a lot of mulberries on this trail earlier in the year, but not this time. This is the walnut time of the year, and I just said it a minute ago, persimmons. Wildlife, we saw our first armadillo on the trail today. I have seen lots of snakes. We have seen an owl just sitting off to the side of the trail before. Lots and lots of indigo buntings through this section of the trail on certain times of the year. They're a little blue iridescent bird, and they like to sit kind of in the dappled shade. And as you pull up, they flip as they fly off, and when they do, they glint, where they're like little flashes of the most beautiful hues, different hues of blue, like a blue butterfly. We've seen as many as like 80, kind of in this stretch too, buntings in one day. Every now and then you'll see a lot of goldfinches. They like to eat the thistles. So when you see the purple thistle flowers that have the real sticky leaves, you don't want to touch those, but the finches absolutely love those. I've seen like a dozen goldfinches on one thistle plant before. They were having like a party. So this KATY Trail, as you know, was the KATY Railroad. My grandfather worked on the Illinois Central Railroad, and he was a Gandy Dancer foreman. One of the reasons I love riding on these rails to trails is because of the connection with my grandfather. I never met my other grandfather. He died in a coal mine accident when he was 42 in a cave-in. My grandfather, Darnell, was a foreman on a Gandy dancer crew. If you don't know what a Gandy dancer is, they were the guys who laid the tracks and the rails and put the rocks in them. And when you were putting the tracks on the rails, they would work in gangs where they would have these big long metal bars and they would sing so they could work in unison. So it looked a little bit like they were dancing. And the bars were made by the Gandy Corporation. So they became known as Gandy dancers. And if you look on my Rails to Trails channel, that's kind of where the theme came from. We've got videos from where we travel on rails. Ken and I are avid rail riders. We got the bug when we lived in Germany for 3 years. And the way I got to work there was to ride the train every day. I lived about an hour outside of Frankfurt where I worked in downtown Frankfurt. Lived out in Dornisheim. And then later we moved into the city area and still rode a train or a bike to work. A lot of people have Sky Miles, and we do Amtrak Guest Reward card, and we get train miles. Hello. And so we recently took our second 6,000 mile trip using our train points, and on that trip we went, the latest one, from Kirkwood, which is in St. Louis. We rode the Missouri River Runner and went out to Kansas City. Had about 30 Boy Scouts with us that were headed out to Philmont. We switched trains in Kansas City and we hopped on the long distance train, the Southwest Chief. The Southwest Chief is like all the long distance trains. It's a two-story train and has sleeping cars, a dining car, sightseeing car, snack car, coach cars, and typically 2 or 3 sleepers. Usually there's 3. Nice cliffs here. There's one of those overhangs I talked about. I always envision Lewis and Clark staying underneath that. There's a river just over there. There's a little airport between us and there. Sometimes the river's real close to the trail. Not here. So the Southwest Chief took us all the way to LA, and our food and our room was all included with our train points. That was 1 overnight. Or is that 2? It's 2 overnights.
What?
The Southwest Chief is 2 overnights, isn't it? I think it is, yeah. It is.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, but you can't hear me because my helmet went out. The Southwest Chief is two nights on the train. I was trying to make sure I was right. I'm pretty sure it is. 2 nights, yeah. And so then we got to LA in the morning and we switched to the Coach Starlight. We just had coach tickets on that because we were getting off in Salina. I think it's Salina or Salinas, California. It's the closest stop to Monterey. And we were going to Monterey to stay in the Navy postgraduate school. And the Navy postgraduate school is inside of a Navy base that surrounds the Hotel Del Monte. The Hotel Del Monte was built by a railroad baron that helped fund a railroad that went from the east to Monterey. And they built a giant hotel there in like 1880 to entice people to come out and stay at his hotel. He ride his railroad out, stay at his hotel, and then they built the beautiful golf course there called Pebble Beach. And the people would come stay there and go golfing. And for the people who didn't golf, they came up with tours where you could ride in tour cars along this beautiful 17-mile stretch through Pebble Beach and along the coast there. Basically, you would ride from the Hotel de Monte, and you would go through Pacific Grove and Asilomar, and we get to the Pebble Beach part of the road, and then you eventually wind up at Carmel by the Sea. So that road through that area was built by the railroad baron that built the hotel. You can stay in the hotel for very inexpensively for the Monterey area if you are an active duty military person, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, can stay there. Some DOD people can stay there and are authorized. You have to check before you go to make sure you can get access to the base. And disabled veterans like myself, you can also go there if you are a Purple Heart recipient or were a prisoner of war. And in our case, we went through and got our DEERS cards. They're the Department of Defense card. I have one, Tina has one. I love these giant rocks right here that are right down by the trail. Very neat. And you can see some people have walked off up into that, and it's private property, so don't do that. But you have to have the right card to get onto the base, and I would call ahead because I don't think you're getting on that base with just a DA card. So if you're 30% disabled, it'll get you in some MWR facilities. That means morale, welfare, and recreation, but it won't necessarily get you on all bases. I always call and check before I go, before I book. We could stay at that really cool old hotel for only $160 a night, and for Monterey, that made the whole deal possible for us. We went out there for our 45th anniversary, and it was just a wonderful trip. The trip out was the first half of our 6,000 miles. It was actually more like 6,100-ish, but we rented a car at Salina and then drove to Monterey, and then we rented e-bikes. There was we have e-bikes, but we didn't want to take them on the train, and I'll probably finish talking after this emergency vehicle goes past. So here we are at the Dutzow Trailhead. I'll talk some more about our Monterey trip in a minute. Don't count on people stopping here. They're supposed to, but a lot of times they don't. And there was a kid that was killed at one of these intersections around here. The state of Missouri really needs to get with it and put in some flashing lights like they do in Florida. A lot of these trailheads, like this one, I don't think has water. Oh, it does. Some of them don't, particularly east of here. Be careful if you're riding to have adequate water. East of Dutzow, it gets pretty dicey on the water at the trailhead. That one did, and a lot of them have tools as well. So back to our trip. So we're in Monterey. We rented our e-bikes there. We didn't want to take ours on the train because it's just a big hassle on a long distance train. We're going to try doing it on the river runner here in Missouri. You have to make provisions in advance so they know you're coming. But the long distance train, there just isn't a real good way, I don't think, to do it. There's a baggage car that it's enough hassle to take little backpacks and go. So we would prefer, we just rented the bikes. We went to Big Sur Adventures. We looked at different places there. And in the Monterey area, there were 3 of these Big Sur Adventures, very conveniently located to the trails out there. The trail that we rode, you could go out of the Navy Postgraduate School, and if you're staying there in the MWR, there is a gate to get out right across the street from the trail, but that gate is closed a lot of the time. So you can just come out of the main gate and turn right, go down that street, and there's a light, you go across, and boom, you're at the trail. But you have to go through a little like parking lot, and you can be there. And then if you turn left, you can get all the way down to Carmel by the Sea. Stunning ride. I recommend you look at some of my other videos. Some of my 30-minute videos are of that ride. There's one ride in there that I call the Coldplay ride. The reason that it's got that name is we were on that ride one time and we pulled up, and I have this little camera mounted on the top of my helmet. And just we pulled into the parking lot, this little couple was there, and there was a woman kissing this guy just as we pulled up. And I said, "Oh, you're going to be on my YouTube channel, Rails and Trails." And the guy said, "Oh no, I don't want to be on it. I'm in the Federal Witness Protection Program." And his wife said, "I want to be on it." And we started talking with them, and my wife, Tina, said, "I thought this was going to be a Coldplay moment." And the woman and the man just started laughing, and then they started acting it out, and I just thought it was hilarious. Everybody there is laughing, and he says something like, "But I'm not her CEO, and she's not an HR director." And then the woman said, "But I am an HR director, and you are a CEO." And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm not your CEO, and you're not my HR director." And I said, "You know, your story's not really adding up here." And it just was hilarious. So I would encourage you to watch that and the other videos that say something about Carmel by the Sea or Monterey. And then you can get an idea what the trails there are like. We're going to do lots more trails rides in the Katy, because it's very close to our house, and we can jet out and do different sections different times of the year. But let's get back to our story of the 6,000 mile train trip. So we had bikes for like 5 days, and the bike shop, the Big Sur Adventures, were wonderful. They brought the bikes right to us, small delivery fee, met us in the parking lot right outside of the gate that I said is open and closed sometimes, right by the trail. Brought us chargers. We brought our own helmets, because I like my own helmet to have the Bluetooth and to mount the camera on the top. We rode, and in Cannery Row, which is just, I don't know, 2 miles maybe from the base, they had their first bicycle shop that was out of the 3. You could walk there and get the bikes. I thought that might be nice. They give you a bike bag for the back, a pannier, or however you say it, and they give you a little bike bag for the front. And you know, they're beat up, but they work, and you can get helmets from them.